So first, let's deal with the common causes of the left-sided heart failure. So we have ischemic heart disease, systemic hypertension, mitral or aortic valve diseases. The mitral valve is present between the left atrium and the left ventricle, whereas the aortic valve is present at the opening of the aorta. Both the diseases of these valves are responsible for the left-sided heart failure. And it can be primary disease of myocardium that is causing the left-sided heart failure. Now let's move toward the morphology. So the morphology of the heart will depend on the underlying disease that is causing the heart failure. But mostly there is left ventricle hypertrophy. With time there is left ventricle dilation, and there is increased pressure in the left atrium. Here, when the left ventricle dilates, the pulmonary muscles, they are also displaced outward, and with their displacement, the mitral wall that is present here is its regurgitation occurs. So there is mitral insufficiency, and when there is mitral insufficiency, the left atrium is going to enlarge, because the blood, when the left ventricle is going to contract, the blood moves in the aorta, but because of the regurgitation it will move backward as well. So this will lead to left atrial enlargement, and when there is enlargement of left atrium, atrial fibrillation can also occur. Next are the microscopic changes. As I have told in my previous video that the myocyte hypertrophy can occur. It can be eccentric or concentric depending on the underlying disease. So myocyte hypertrophy with interstitial fibrosis can occur, but mostly these changes are non-specific. In case of lungs, there will be presence of heart failure cells. These are hemocyanin-laden alveolar macrophages. These are also known as siderophages. So when there is left-sided heart failure, there is increased end-diastolic volume in left ventricle. This will lead to increased end-diastolic pressure in the left ventricle. As a result of increased pressure, there will be increased pressure in the left atrium as well, and this will lead to backup pressure. And when the here is in the back of the left atrium, there are the pulmonary veins that are entering in here. So there will be backup pressure in the pulmonary veins. This will lead to congestion, edema, and pleural effusion. So there will be increased hydrostatic pressure in venules of visual pleura, and our lungs, their appearance becomes heavy, boggy, and microscopically it shows perivascular as well as interstitial transudates. Alveolar septal edema and accumulation of edema fluid in alveolar space can also occur. So all these changes are because of increased backup pressure in the pulmonary veins. Now let's move toward the clinical features. So that's a very obvious dyspnea on exertion. Okay, shortness of breath on exercise, excessive exercise. Next is cough. Okay, next very important, that is orthopnea. There is shortness of breath on recumbent position because of increased venous return and elevation of the diaphragm. Then next is PND, proximal nocturnal dyspnea. Other features that can be present but can be absent as well. So these include cardiomegaly, increasing the size of the heart, presence of third heart sound, tachycardia, fine rales at the base of lung caused by opening of edematous pulmonary alveoli, left atrial fibrillation. So the features here are irregular heartbeat, and because of atrial fibrillation and the stagnant blood there, thrombi can form, and a part of the thrombus can break out and serve as an embolus and can be responsible for stroke. Next is, because of fibrillation, there will be reduced atrial contribution, and this will lead to further decrease in ventricular stroke volume. The renal system, here further renal perfusion will decrease, and this will lead to activation of renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. And because of the activation of this system, there will be vasoconstriction as well as increased absorption of water and salts. And this absorption will lead to worsening of pulmonary edema. Perirenal azotemia can occur, impaired excretion of nitrogenous waste. Next is our CNS effect. So this can lead to hypoxic encephalopathy, and that can be manifest as irritability or restlessness. So that's all about the left-sided heart failure. It's just an overview. If you like this video, click on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.